hello all. Recently, our software architect Ali Işık has published an article on Medium, and it was about requirements for payment systems. So today we will ask him a few questions about this subject. Welcome.
Thank you.
First, I would like to start by asking, how does blockchain improve payment systems?
Blockchain is not a terribly well-defined thing. If there's no spec for it. It's what kind of defines it. The reference for blockchain is the Bitcoin code. Mm-hmm. That's how it all started. So, in that sense, with reference to Bitcoin, the improvement with Bitcoin is that you don't have to rely anyone to accept you. With whoever you are, you can even hide yourself, and if you want to transfer value to someone anywhere in the world, it allows you to do that without having to go through any government or otherwise international channels. So providing that use case by itself is an improvement. It's new. Mm-hmm. But when you say payments, a whole class of things are left out by what Bitcoin does and is good at. Because of the way it was set up, because of the use cases it supports, it has to be resilient against bad people trying to do bad things on its platform, trying to spend the same value multiple times, etc. It has, as a defense mechanism, it kind of works slowly, too slowly for some use cases. For instance, if you want to be able to set up a payment system mm-hmm. that Starbucks would be able to use, you're not going to wait tens of minutes or even more for your payment to go through. When you're there, you just give them your credit card, or these days, without even entering anything, you just pay through NFC, and in 10-15 seconds you expect that to go through. So Bitcoin is definitely not a good fit there, but for the things that it does, it's certainly awesome. It solves a lot of problems that all the great minds in academia and everywhere else had not been able to put their thumbs on until that time.
So, but maybe in the future those transaction processes will be much faster. Now, having seen Bitcoin, everybody was so excited. Okay, so this is awesome. This just opens up a whole new channel. Mm-hmm. Maybe we can go up against these titans of Wall Street and the governments and find ourselves a niche in the big world of finance. So what other things are there related to these, sending of funds, especially cross-border mm-hmm. payments, and all the way down to micropayments and paying at Starbucks kind of thing. Of course, as I said, Bitcoin is not a good fit there, but the Bitcoin code is out there for everyone to take and take in any direction that you want to take it in. So people started thinking, okay, how can we change this, and not necessarily improve it, because mm-hmm. it does what it does pretty well, but maybe change it and make it applicable to these other use cases where then we may find ourselves a niche in finance. So for instance, Ethereum is one thing mm-hmm. That came up that way. In many ways it's very similar to Bitcoin. It again, it's a public network. Mm-hmm. You can transfer funds on it, cross-border payments, etc. But it's kind of faster. You don't have to wait quite as long to believe that that's good enough. That's probably not going to be reverted any longer. I can consider that payment final now. Mm-hmm. That happens more quickly. And also it provides a facility to actually deploy code on the blockchain mm-hmm. and do something smart there. It's almost like writing an application
on this distributed environment on the blockchain. Bitcoin has that capability too, but it's very limited. What Ethereum brings is much more powerful than that. But then again, for certain use cases, Ethereum is not enough either. It has many missing features, which they may change over time, but the way we know Ethereum now, it has certain shortcomings. Maybe again for its own use cases it's good, but for certain use cases, for the ones that we're interested in MenaPay in particular, it's not a great fit. Mm-hmm. For instance, privacy is one concern. You know, it's just a public network, and although you are not represented as your complete identification, you are represented by IDs. It is possible to track and find out what's happening, who is doing what, if you really put your mind to it. And companies, especially big companies, don't like that. You know, I may not mind if people try to learn how much money I send my brother every month. That's not a great concern. But a big company may not want others tracking its sales figures before it sort of compiles them and releases them to its investors. So there is a concern with privacy. And Quorum was the major project that realized that it can take something like Ethereum and move it towards, move it in a way that, change it in a way that would make it more applicable for internal enterprise use. Quorum does support some of these privacy use cases, but maybe I should let you go, Albin.
So, okay, in respect to privacy, what other concerns does Ethereum and blockchain have?
Well, in addition to privacy, for the use cases that MenaPay would be interested in providing, there is, I think I mentioned the finality problem, how long it takes for you to consider the transaction complete, at least probabilistically, very highly probably complete. So that's a latency issue. There's also a throughput issue, meaning, all right, each transaction can take a certain while, a certain latency to complete, but when you look at all of them as a system, how many transactions can the system approve per second? That's throughput. So that's transactions per second. Initially, for a small system trying to find itself a niche will not be a problem. But if you have your eyes in a big market, as we do, you have to be able to be ready for the upside, which may well go into thousands of transactions per second if all goes well for us, hopefully so. For Bitcoin and Ethereum, that's like in the tens per second, and it's possible to improve that to hundreds. I think Quorum does that, but since that has been the concern for some group, a few groups that are trying to implement solutions using blockchain, there's been some research for concentrating on improving that transaction per second number, and in particular we've been intrigued by some recent work by the Fabric group in IBM. Now Fabric is under the auspices of currently the Linux Foundation, but still the main, the brains of it, the people providing the fresh academic ideas to it are still in IBM. And in a recent paper, they introduce a new architecture that departs from the classical distributed systems literature that provides something new. It actually builds on several existing pieces of research and puts them all together into a complete system as a product and runs tests with it. It's a pretty impressive paper. It's not actually out yet as a product. It'll be coming in the next few months. But what they did, apparently, I'm just following by the paper, we don't have the code and we haven't tested it ourselves, but apparently they, instead of first ordering all the transactions and then going from there, they assign certain nodes, perhaps randomly chosen, a subset of nodes, to first run the chain code and see if it is reasonable. Because there are performance attacks and other things things can go wrong with chain code and general smart contracts. A certain subset executes the code, and if they find it to be all right, then you move on to the next stage by changing that little bit and maybe several other changes. They have apparently reached with the kinds of hardware that's available to everyone now, 3,000 or so transactions per second, and it scales well with respect to almost all the parameters. So that was very interesting to us. That we are looking forward to obtaining the code that they use to produce those numbers and trying it out ourselves. So that shows that since there is pressure, there is great interest in evolving the concept of blockchain in various directions to be able to make them applicable for many use cases, for different use cases. It is happening. The blockchain is evolving, and I think these innovations will be adopted by many different projects, and each innovation will build in different respects upon the blockchain, and it really will become, in the not too distant future, maybe in a matter of years, not decades, make the concept of blockchain applicable in most corners of finance and make things possible that were not possible before, or make already possible things cheaper or faster. So it's looking good.
So do you think that one day all centralized systems will be disrupted based on finance?
Well, not necessarily so. It's a very highly regulated industry, and rightfully so. So that's one aspect that may keep it centralized, and that the central centralized architecture may have advantages, to be mandated to be centralized. So in general, there are fallacies of distributed systems. It has great advantages in some respects, but it also has costs. So definitely, peer-to-peer networks and distributed systems are not the panacea for all ills of humankind. So there will definitely be use cases where it'll be the best solution, or many use cases that were not even possible before. But no, I don't think it'll be the single solution. In fact, now there is a tendency, we are at the top of the hype cycle now, and everybody's trying to somehow fit blockchain into everything else, your flower pot and whatnot. But no, so it will be a great fit, a great solution in many markets, many corners of markets, but not everywhere.
I know that some centralized systems are adapting crypto payments to their systems right now around the world. Maybe they will adapt to the system.
Well, they have to. They will either take it in and use it, or change themselves
take Swift for instance. Since it was more or less a monopoly, as long as it worked, it was all right. So it did not necessarily have to improve its performance very much. There was not such a great pressure on it from that direction. But now they are probably feeling some heat, so they don't necessarily have to take blockchain and run with it themselves, but within their existing solutions they may have to innovate too to compete better, or it may just be the smartest thing to just take the blockchain and the innovations that are happening out there, take them in and build on them, and of course they're smart enough to know that may be to their advantage.
So we can say that we are in a very interesting digital transformation age right now.
Looks very interesting.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So as you can see, he knows a lot about this, our software architect.
No, I'm just learning with everybody else.
Yeah, we are always learning day by day. So you can follow him on Medium and on Twitter. And if you have any questions, you can comment below. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you.